Shall we get started, Zach?
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you all for taking the time to join the Impact Academy webinar. And today we're going to talk about taking control of your platform health through Instance Observer for guided impact. Before I jump in, we'll do our safe harbor slide. Notice for forward-linking statements may be shared here, but most of the demo is going to be live functionality currently available to all Impact Guided customers. So I'll go through the agenda and a few other housekeeping slides, but looking forward to demonstrating Instance Observer for you today. This is a monthly webinar series. There are an array of topics across platform health, product adoption, as it relates to ServiceNow capabilities, value, and other impact-related topics that are hosted again on a monthly basis. If you use this QR code or check out the community, you'll be able to see the full catalog of upcoming events and go back and watch any of our prior events that are recorded and posted to the Impact community page. Few housekeeping. We do have Q&A at the end of the session, but if something's on the screen and you have an important question, don't hesitate to ask. Karen is here. She's a fellow outbound product manager for Impact, and she's going to help share questions and make sure they get answered. This will be recorded and posted to the community after today's session. And hopefully you'll have some time to fill out the survey. Hopefully this content and the session overall is very valuable for you, and you'll attend a few more. So jumping into things, I'm going to go into a quick overview of what Instance Observer for Guided is. And then again, like I said, I'm going to pull up Instance Observer and give you a demonstration of what the experience looks like and how it can help you in the management of your platform. But first, I want to start with a quote from Jeffrey Moore. It was really at the center of thinking about Instance Observer and what it means for our customers. You know, without appropriate data, you are blind and deaf and in the middle of a freeway. So what we're going to show you today is a ton of telemetry around your instance performance telemetry, and hopefully give you insights and guidance on how to effectively address issues when they arise on the platform and be proactive in that management. A few years ago, we were engaging with an array of customers across each of the personas. So administrators, platform owners, executives, and DevOps, managing and leveraging ServiceNow for their digital transformation. And when we were talking to them about platform health and platform performance management, we began to see three themes. And it really came into the lack of visibility around instance performance telemetry and really understanding how you're performing real time. And then at times that would result in, end users being impacted and the lack of confidence in pushing innovation. Especially when you're doing things quickly, you want to make sure that, you are performing at a high quality and being able to push innovation at speed. And what we were noticing was without these insights, there was a concern around technical debt accumulating on the platform. So we began to look internally and understand what data could we make available. And how would we do that to really empower a customer to manage their ServiceNow platform in a self-service manner and really have the insights required to manage a platform effectively? So that's where Instance Observer, really started, wanting to provide multi-instance visibility, not just your production instance. As you're making changes and you're doing things in lower environments, how can we make it very easy for you to identify potential performance concerns in a lower environment? So as Instance Observer out of the box is going to provide you full stack visibility for each of your instances. And then as we unlock the telemetry within Instance Observer, providing you with some instance metadata, that's associated with those telemetry types, so you can really understand where and what on your instance is resulting in the performance results seen within Instance Observer. Then we also want to provide it in an off-instance application. And there's a few benefits for this. One, in the scenario where your instance is not accessible, you still have access to Instance Observer as long as you have access to the internet. And it's also managed and provisioned by ServiceNow. So this allows you to always get the latest and greatest innovations. We release quarterly, and it's agnostic of your family release on instance. So again, you're always getting the latest, greatest, and having the ability to use those functionalities when we release them. And then lastly, it's not just real-time access to the data, the historical insights. So you get up to 45 days historical. So you're really able to see trends over time and understand how your instance and users behave and interact with the instance. So when we began to build out Instance Observer and we piloted it with a handful of our customers, we went back to them with the same questions. And we had, those same themes kind of shifted. They did have visibility and do have visibility into their instance performance. Now they're able to validate in lower environments before pushing to production so that they can deploy confidently, not impact any of their end users, and innovate faster. And then lastly, it's really the reduction of technical debt. So we're no longer accumulating it on the platform and able to leverage Instance Observer to help address some of the areas of concern on the platform. And then from a guided perspective, it really comes down to surfacing this telemetry in a few different ways. And the first is the reporting module. There are a few pre-canned reports that provide a dashboard-like experience. And in a few clicks, you're going to be able to see instance telemetry in an aggregated manner, in addition to some underlying telemetry associated to your database and associated tables. And this is nice too from an operations standpoint. Again, it's a few clicks and you're able to visualize, the overall health and how things are changing day over day and week over week. And then to really unlock the telemetry and really dig in, the performance module is where you're going to be able to look at those 90 different telemetry types, and that number continues to increase release over release. But again, you're going to be able to visualize those metric types for each of your instances and up to 45 days of historical data associated with them. And I'll show you some of those here in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the demo experience. The demo experience I'm sharing here is only going to show one instance, but I continue to emphasize that this is a multi-instance application, so you'll be able to see all of your production and sub-production instances. So starting here at the Impact portal, if you're an existing Impact customer, this really is your control tower for your ServiceNow journey. And there's a lot of different components that you leverage here within the Impact portal. But for today's demonstration, I'm going to focus on the platform health area of the Impact portal, and specifically the Monitor tab. This is where you'll go to access Instance Observer. And here within the portal, we pull in some high-level telemetry and KPIs associated with your production instances. But to access Instance Observer, you're going to want to go to Instance Observer itself, which again is an off-instance application standalone. So as long as you have access to the internet, you have access to Instance Observer. And upon logging into Instance Observer, you're going to see your full instance stack. Again, this is a demo environment only showing one, but you would see each of your instances associated with your account, some high-level KPIs around your database, your transactions, and some of your response times, your current instance availability, cluster details associated with each, and then any monitoring alerts that have triggered in the last 24 hours. These monitoring alerts are in place on the ServiceNow side, separate of Instance Observer. Instance Observer is simply surfacing those here within the user experience. But now thinking about the telemetry, and before I show you anything, I want to just show you the Help tab, which if you go here and look at the metrics overview, and on the right side, you're going to be able to see all of the different telemetry that's available within Instance Observer. And we try to do our best to provide a good metric definition. And then in the scenarios where it's applicable to troubleshooting, provide you some guidance on what that could mean from a troubleshooting perspective. So as you and the team are looking at it and analyzing it, you can understand what impact it may be having on your instance and how best to resolve it. Jumping into the reports module, this is where you're going to be able to select some of our pre-canned reports. And we currently have 3 available. We have the daily performance metrics report, the encryption report, and the database growth report. The database growth report does a really good job of surfacing, your primary database telemetry, the size, and then what are your top tables. It takes a few seconds to load as it looks at your full instance. But I'm also going to show you a similar view in the performance module where you can really go deep into some of your database and table telemetry associated with an instance. So you can see here, you're able to see the size. What does the database size, including shards, look like? And then again, what are your top 20 tables on an instance? But again, I'm going to show you a really cool chart in the performance module that goes a little bit deeper into this telemetry. The other one, again, this is a really good report from an operations standpoint, a daily view into the instance health and how's that looked over, a period of time. Select this, again, select your instance. Then when you generate this report, you're going to see some high-level KPIs and thresholds associated with node availability, your standby lag, response time, and your database response times. We have some hard thresholds. Anything above these thresholds, especially as they start to collect in aggregate over a period of time, it will bring, you want to bring it to your attention, and that's what the color coding shows. So anything more than 5 gets flagged as red. And in a few moments, I'll show you how you can go into the performance module and really look at those metrics and see where those anomalies were occurring. And then again, look at some of that underlying metadata that points back to jobs and transactions on the instance. Continuing down in the health indicator section, now we're looking at some of your slow transactions, queries, long-running jobs. What does that look like over a 30-day period of time and those averages? And then how do the last 2 days look from a 24-hour period over the last 2 days? So everything looks good below the averages overall, moving well and operating as expected. And then we also surface, over that 24-hour period of time, what are your top 10 slow transactions, slow queries, and then also any long-running jobs. So again, really good sanity check from an operations standpoint. Takes a few seconds to come in and just see how the instance has been performing. Before I jump into the performance module, I wanted to demonstrate the availability functionality. The first one being the instance availability, and this is going back to your data centers regionally. Where are they sitting amongst our data centers globally, and the availability of them. Quick view here within Instance Observer. Then the monitoring alerts, I touched on those on the homepage, and the homepage shows you the last 24 hours. If you look in the availability section of this, you'll be able to see these alerts over the last 7 days. And if there's any case created, it will map back to now support. And then this new feature that was recently released is the known issues. So again, trying to collect and show any known issues that are associated with products and your instances. Luckily here, there's none currently, but in the scenario that they are, provide you with the known issue, where we're at in remediating it, and if there are any steps that you can take in the near term to begin remediation, quickly show that here in a list view when there are known issues associated with your instance. But the real power of Instance Observer is in the performance module, and I call these telemetry families. And as you click in, you're going to see additional metrics associated with them. So in a second, I'll click into the transaction response times chart. But I want to just bring your attention to the top 3. Transaction response times, database, and semaphores. Those are 3 key metrics that you should be visualizing within your instance on a regular basis, and want to making sure that everything's operating as expected. And as you can see, when you click in, you'll get those additional metrics that's associated with that telemetry family. Here, again, it's going to be a consistent experience across Instance Observer, especially in the performance module. Select your instance, select your date range. Here, as a guided customer, you have access to 45 days of historical telemetry. Select the metrics. If you do click the diagnostic events, this is going to show you on the chart overlay anytime there was a node restart or cache flush on the instance. Then you click Get Snapshot. So what this is doing at the time is pulling the telemetry for the date range selected. And in the first block here, in a second when it loads, it's going to show you your KPIs over that period of time. It's looking at the mean and median of your user transactions and your server response time. These metrics vary based on what you're doing on the platform and how many users you have engaging with it. So those vary from time to time, and that allows you to see trends based on your instance and your customer base as well. So as you continue through, you'll see your user transaction counts, and then you can also see some of the server response times. And as you saw in the reports module, there were some anomalies that were occurring over the 30-day period selected. So with Instance Observer, it's a simple drag and click. And you're able to click and go back in time and see what jobs and transactions were running when you saw the spike on the instance. When you see those spikes, it does not mean that the end user was impacted. It's simply showing you that there was a rev put on the instance. And then here you're able to look at the jobs and transactions to understand, what was the most likely root cause or driver behind that rev put on the instance. I often use a car analogy for Instance Observer. It's a lot like the dashboard of your car. How much gas do you have? How hot's your engine? How fast are you going? All of that type of telemetry is similar to Instance Observer and how your instance is performing. And you're also able to look at this at the instance and node level. And you're also able to download the reports and share the URLs so others can visualize the same time frame that you had selected. Continuing down, I mentioned the database growth report. This is the chart version of it, and this allows you to select the date range that you desire. And the first chart that's going to load is going to show you your core DBI size, and then also some of your core tables, your CMDB and your sys tables, and along with task. What do the growth of those look like over the date range selected? But my favorite chart here is the database growth. So what this does is it's always going to be at a single day and 7-day period of time from a growth and growth rate perspective. But what this allows you to do is visualize all of the tables on your instance and see how those are growing and at what rate, and the overall size as well. So it allows you to really manage individual tables as well and understand the size of them and how they're growing and at what rate. As an Instance Observer user, I really recommend digging into the Help tab, understanding all of the different metrics. I often joke, I don't know if anyone is an expert in all of the different telemetry that's available. So we do try to provide, as I mentioned, a description, definition, and what could it mean for you from a troubleshooting perspective. And then poking around here within the Instance Observer Performance module itself, because it really allows you to understand the KPIs and start looking at this monthly, weekly, quarterly, and understand how your instance does perform. And then you can understand as you start to push new innovation and new things onto your platform, understanding what, how the instance is impacted and where that source may be if it's negatively impacted in any way. So I'm going to pause there. It looks like there's a few questions in the chat. And I can try
to read them.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, you might have answered some of these, but we'll just reiterate them again. The first one that came in from Jose is there any dashboard to see mid-server individual health, such as semaphore usage, queue usage?
Yep, so that would be, I'll keep my screen shared. Apologize. Yeah, so that would be in the semaphore section, and you can see here there's a fair amount of metrics tied back. It's not necessarily to the mid server, depending on what type of the telemetry you're looking for, but you are able to look at queue depth, semaphores in use, some of your AMB telemetry, and then also a level of integrations with semaphores in use, and then the queue depth as well. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and there's a couple questions I've seen, just folks asking how they get access to Instance Observer. So from a licensing perspective, and then do they need to install any plugins to see it?
Absolutely, great question. And I apologize for not commenting that when I was on the portal. As an Impact guided customer, you have access to Instance Observer. So you do need to be an Impact customer. And then as an Impact customer, I would work with your CSM, who can work with you to provide the Instance Observer role within Impact. So again, as an Impact customer, you'll have access to a CSM who's supporting you on your journey, and they'll be a point of contact to help provide access to Instance Observer.
Yeah, and then Josh just asked, does the average user have access to the help page associated with Instance Observer? I'm assuming yes, if they have.
Yeah, if you have access to Instance Observer, I'm also working on a community post that's going to surface the same metrics there as well. So to answer the question directly, if you have access to Instance Observer, you have access to the help page.
Okay. Then I have a little bit of a long question from a customer. It says, we're getting ready to kick off a variety of CMDB CI discovery initiatives, including ITOM discovery, MS Intune Spoke, and possibly a SolarWinds REST API. I would be concerned with running the discovery tasks during business hours without knowing what their impact on our instance and network infrastructure. To that end, how can the Instance Observer help me better understand any related performance issues and what we might do to mitigate them?
I think I would need to wear a certain hat there, and I'm not an expert in all of that. But what I would say is, with the historical access to data with Instance Observer, and you have access to that historical data immediately. So it's not a burn-in period for that 45 days of time. It's always collecting and visualizing within Instance Observer. So you would have a good sample size, obviously, before any of that's happened. How is your instance performed? And as you begin to do discovery, you'll be able to see, based on the date of time when you know you're running certain discovery related tasks and jobs on the instance, you'll be able to see that impact through various metric types, server response times, database, and the list may go on. There's also a few accelerators associated with Impact and available through Impact, I should say, that allow you to bring a CMDB expert to the table and really go deep into that topic specifically. I'm sorry, and understand performance and what you should be looking for, and then again layering in the Instance Observer piece, what metrics specifically you should look at. So I also would recommend looking into the ITOM related accelerators that are available to you.
Great, thanks, Zach. We have quite a few more, so I'm just going to go through them. Are these user transaction counts, mean medium, from the individual browser's timing or from the data center app layer?
They are the data center app layer. I can pull up the exact one. But yeah, I believe they are aggregate of the they are the users in aggregate. Give me 1 second. I can give you the exact definition. That might not be there.
This next one's a juicy one. Are you ready for it, or are you?
Well, I just look back. So it's the instance level. It's the instance level app layer, wide sum of all UI transactions.
Okay. Can you schedule auto cases to be created in ServiceNow support on threshold we configure as an Impact customer?
We do not have that integration today. We do have the monitoring alerts in place from a ServiceNow side, but those thresholds are set and managed by ServiceNow, and often generate a case, but there's no self-service alerting capabilities that generate a case with Now support.
Okay. It says, is there anywhere we can see details, like what is the average response time of opening a request form in the SP portal or incident form in native UI?
That's a feedback we've received a lot with Instance Observer customers. We're actively working on some solutions for that, but that's not currently available within Instance Observer, but is something we're actively pursuing.
How many licenses do guided customers get for IO? For Instance Observer, sorry, yes. I shouldn't use the acronym.
Yes, for Instance Observer Guided, there's currently 2 seats available for guided customers.
Is Instance Observer for an individual using accessibility tools such as Fusion, JAWS, Zoom Text, and Dragon?
Can you repeat the question there, Karen?
Yeah. Is Instance Observer for an individual using accessibility tools such as Fusion? I'm assuming they're saying, is it available? Such as Fusion, JAWS, Zoom Text, and Dragon.
I do not know the answer to that question. I think I would have a few follow-up questions for that.
Okay, Eduardo, we'll get back to you on that. Beth is just asking if there's a recording. Yes, Beth, there will be a recording of this session that we can share after. Are you able to set up notifications to alert one on metrics that rise or fall below a threshold?
From an Impact Guided perspective, we currently do not have the self-service alerting capabilities made available. That is something we are looking at adding to the guided package, but there's no timeline for when that would be made available.
Okay, and then to add on to that, James wanted to say, in addition to that, and be able to pick metrics that matter to him or his team.
Correct. There is a self-service capability from an alert perspective available to our advanced and total customers currently. And that allows you, again, to pick a metric and set your own threshold. And when that's seen within the instance, trigger a notification.
Okay, and Brian is asking, is there an Impact Standard, Pro, and Enterprise version, and is Impact included with any other module packages? That's a great question.
That is a great question. Impact is a standalone product, just like if you would buy ITSM, you purchase ServiceNow Impact, and there's 3 packages: Guided, Advanced, and Total. So a little different than the standard Pro and Enterprise, but our packaging is Guided, Advanced, and Total.
Where can they find that information? Is it on servicenow.com?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think our product doc site somewhere, and then I also would recommend reaching out to your account team. They'll definitely be armed with additional information specific to packaging.
Here's another one. Is there anywhere we can see details, like what is the average response time of opening a request form in this? I think I already answered. We already answered that. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yes, I think, but I can put point of clarity there. Instance Observer is currently at the instance level. So it's not at, your creator workflows or your technical workflows. It's very much at the instance level. We do have some items that we're exploring on the roadmap to bring that to life. But currently everything I showed is at the instance level.
Okay. I think this might be the last one. Customers always ask us, what is the difference between Instance Observer and Sprint Scans?
Great question. So Sprint Scan is looking at the configurations and what you're deploying in terms of like the actual deployment of code to in the update sets, where Instance Observer is the performance telemetry piece. So to use a simple analogy, Sprint Scan is a lot like, and I like to use a car analogy for platform health. You know that you're going to make a change to your car. So you see the check engine light come on, you take it to the mechanic, they plug it into the computer, and they point to you where something is wrong. That's when you think about health scan, instance scan, and that type of health telemetry is very much of looking at where is something wrong in terms of a best practice configuration, where Instance Observer is very much the performance of the instance. So your dashboard, again, how fast are you going? How much gas is in the tank? That type of telemetry. I hope that helps.
I think that's it for questions, unless anyone has some last minute ones they want to post.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for taking the time. This will be posted to the community. So if you want to go back, look through anything. I think there's one question for looking how to find the URL. Stephen, could you clarify? Are you looking for a link to Instance Observer? Or yes. So Stephen, are you an Impact customer? Okay. I would reach out.
You want to show them again, just where you were?
Yes. All good. I will demonstrate that for you right now. Give me a second. Can you see do you see the Impact portal, Karen?
Yes, I see it.
Can you, and Stephen, I apologize that we're in a webinar that doesn't allow for you to come off mute. Can you confirm that you can see my screen? If so,
He can.
Okay. You're in Impact Platform Health Monitor tab, and then if you have the Instance Observer role, if you click Actions, you should see Instance Observer, and that should take you to your Instance Observer URL. And then looks like Sam just asked a question of what Impact package do we need to have Instance Observer? Instance Observer is available to all Impact packages, Guided, Advanced, and Total.
I think he was just saying he lost his URLs. So he's saying impactdisplay.servicenow.com, which is what's showing on yours, but I don't know if that's a demo.
Oh, yes, I'm in a demo environment. I would recommend reaching out to your CSM, but or you go to impact.servicenow.com. And then single sign-on should take you to your Impact portal. But if there's a challenge there, I would recommend reaching out to your CSM.
Patricia, we will post the webinar. She's just wanting to know where she can get access to it. We'll post the webinar after the session, but I think it takes a couple days, right, Zach?
Correct. But by next week, it should be posted to the community and the ServiceNow Impact YouTube page.
Okay, and I apologize. I don't know if we answered this one. Is the 45-day history a hard stop, or can it be adjusted to 90-day for specific troubleshooting efforts?
It's currently a hard stop at 45 days. The specific troubleshooting, there would be, unique conversations with support and Impact and the Impact team. But out of the box, it's a hard 45 days.
Great.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate everyone taking the time on this Thursday. Have a great day. Again, this will be posted to the community. And I also have a few other assets associated with Instance Observer specifically for Guided. So hopefully, you'll be able to check those out here in the next week or so as well. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.